Welcome to the Allegrativity Powercast with Allegra Sinclair. Get ready to punch fear in the throat, show up, and tell your story. Allegra Sinclair is here to help you become the powerful woman you are meant to be. It's finally time to get unstuck and reveal how fabulous you are. And it's time for your host, Allegra Sinclair.
Hey, this is Allegra. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about the price of not being authentic. And I'm going to open up with a question. I was having this conversation with a friend last week, and I asked her if in a situation she was describing, she felt like she was really being who she was during the situation. And she was kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. And my point was the person she was describing, the behavior she was describing, was not what I knew of her. That was not how I perceive her 9 times out of 10 when I'm with her. So I just wanted to poke the bear just a little bit as to whether or not she was behaving in a way that she thought was true to her brand, for lack of a better way of describing it. So my question is, have there been times in your life when you felt like you weren't acting like your true self? Maybe you were unsure of a situation, or you were lacking the confidence at that moment to reveal who you actually are. Whatever your reason, if that is you, that you chose to hide your real self, I think that there is a cost to pay for denying who you are, and I think it's a very real cost. So hiding who you are, hiding who we are, let me put myself in that same category since I have been guilty of that certainly, some days more than others. But hiding who we are puts us in an emotionally unhealthy cycle. First, feeling unsure of ourselves causes us to behave even less authentically in the future, and we may actually begin to wonder who we are. Behaving in a way that is not who you really are can actually begin to cast doubt on who you are. Because when you sometimes ask yourself, why do I behave this way in this situation all the time if that's not who I am? Or, okay, hold your hats. If you behave in a way that is not who you say you are, then you have to ask the question, am I who I say I really am? Or am I who I am behaving like? Does that make sense? So rather than spending time hiding from the world, I believe that you will be healthier, more confident, happier, more satisfied, thinner, more beautiful, all the things that we want if we are true to who we really are. Becoming more authentic in your interactions is definitely possible, but it does take a commitment and a focus, right? So how do you do that? How do you become more authentic? Monitor your feelings closely, because when you know and understand your emotions, you'll be less likely to behave in ways that contrast with what you're really feeling, right? So if I just do things out of habit or because other people are behaving that way, and that's not what I'm feeling, that's where some of that dissonance comes from. But if I'm paying attention to my feelings, even if I decide to behave in a different way, I recognize that I'm doing something that's not necessarily true to what I'm feeling. But if I stay in the moment and consider what's going on around me, I have the information that I need. Then I want to make sure that give yourself time. If something happens and you're unsure of how to react or respond, it is okay not to react at all. Allow yourself a little bit of time to consider the situation, to consider what you're feeling. Now, if you feel pressured to respond, there's nothing wrong with saying something like, I'm not sure how to respond to that. It's true. It's not judgmental. It's fair. It's professional. It's appropriate. It's all sorts of good, right? And it can be your best course of action until you're more confident in how you're feeling about the situation, how you really want to react. Sometimes people want a more immediate response from you than you're ready to give. So one of the things that I do frequently is I'll warn people if they're asking for a question, or if they're asking for a response before I've had a chance to think it through. I'll tell them, I'm still processing this, but if you want me to say something right now, here's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking with my mouth open, because that kind of gives me permission to come back and think differently once I've had a chance to think about it. So 1, I want you to pay more attention to your feelings. 2, I want you to give yourself time in the moment that kind of caught you off guard and gave you a moment, gave you pause. I want you to actually pause. So 3rd, I want you to actually catch yourself when you're being inauthentic or less than or different than who you really are. When you realize that you have been less than you in a given situation, it's okay to say, wait a minute, I changed my mind. Or, maybe I'm not as sure about this as I thought. Give me a moment to think about that. It's important to remember that you have permission to alter your response to anyone and anything at any time. We often talk about a woman's prerogative, and if that works for you, you can use that here. But I'm just saying, any person has the right to alter their opinion at any time. Remind yourself that you have permission to alter your response, and then choose actions that are more in line with how you honestly feel. Fourth, notice what situations tempt you or prompt you to be disingenuous. So if you're insincere or untruthful, or you're putting on an act often when you're around a new supervisor or your father-in-law or your nail tech, that may reveal for you where your insecurities lie. So then you know that there's some work to do in order to punch those particular fears in the throat and then feel more confident about being who you are in those situations. So do some self-reflection to determine why you behave in this particular way around that person or in that particular situation. Another way of demonstrating your commitment to being who you truly are, right, to pay the price of being authentic versus not being authentic, is to be honest with others about your struggles with this. Now, again, I'm not telling you to become an open book and just pour out everything that's going on with you to everybody you meet. Be thoughtful about who you share with and what you share. But the ability to be open and honest about you, who you are, and what you're feeling shows that you like and accept yourself and that you're self-confident. Try to avoid being too afraid to show others who you really are. Self-confidence goes a long way, because if they are comfortable around you because you're being someone who you're not, what will happen if you decide to actually be you, right? And I'm not saying that you can't make that decision anytime you want, you can. But then the people who you spend time with can also make a decision about who they want to hang out with and in what situations. And I'm much more comfortable being with 5 people who know who I really am than hanging out with 15 people who like someone who I'm pretending to be. I think you'll realize that other people truly appreciate you when you're authentic in both behavior and thought. Think about how you feel when you're with someone who's consistently open with you and you really feel like you see who they are and you know who they are. You're more comfortable because of their comfort, right? It's easy to be with someone who you know you can trust. There isn't tension, there isn't guesswork. You're not trying to figure out, well, what did they really mean by that, right? I think we have all been around someone who just seems so uncomfortable in her own skin. It makes you uncomfortable to be around that person. So bear that in mind, that other people truly appreciate who you really are. And they want you to feel comfortable being who you are. And if they don't, then you just need to refer back to that toxic people conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. I think the other part of making sure that you're being authentic is showing care and empathy towards others. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, what's the connection between being caring and being authentic? If you go out of your way to be kind to others, it's a natural response. It's a very short leap to go from being kind to being authentic with them. Because once they realize you're being authentic and they are then comfortable being authentic with you, you really do hold their feelings in your hands. And then you'll realize that it's necessary to be gentle and honest with others just as you want them to be gentle and honest with you. So if you spend a little bit of effort on relating to others truthfully, carefully, you'll gradually find that you like yourself more. Now, if you like yourself already, that's great. You can still like yourself more, and you can like who you really are more. It sets a wonderful example for people around you, and the more authentic you are, the richer the life you'll live. So the price you pay for not being authentic is not living a wonderful life, feeling like you're faking it, wishing you could take off the mask, and always questioning whether the people you're spending time with would spend time with you if they really knew who you were. That just sounds exhausting to me. And things like that exhaust you on an emotional level then begin to exhaust you on a physical level, and it will impact your health, your stress level, and we don't want that. In order for you to do your most powerful work, you need to show up in your best condition. And part of being in your best condition is being authentic and comfortable with precisely who you are. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Now you've been given permission to be more powerful and influence more people. If you've enjoyed this episode, please head over to allegrasinclair.com/iTunes and leave a review. It will help Allegra get the message out to more women that they can punch fear in the throat, show up, and tell their stories. We'll see you next time on the Allegrativity Powercast with Allegra Sinclair.